what parallels have you drawn, between jujitsu and like survival type training? Like, what are some things maybe like jujitsu has complemented, that type of training, and vice versa? What have been some things there?
I would say your mindset and how you approach things, and for survival, it's always going to be about resources and what you can take and use to better your situation.
Mm-hmm.
So in jiu-jitsu, it's the same thing, right? If you're on bottom and you're in a bad position, you can't freak out. You can't let your emotions get to you. You have to be very strategic in what your next movement is if you're in a bad spot. And so a parallel there would be just mentally dealing with shit and pressure and that stress inoculation and how you handle that, how you process that. Because I think most men are pretty logical thinkers, and we can process things that will eventually get us out of a bad situation and help us out. And so for me, going into these survival situations or doing these classes, and I've done a lot of different types of classes, survival 1, 2. I've done 2 SEER training classes, which is survive, evade, resist, and escape. I would say it's the civilian version. It's not military, but there is some stress inoculation. And I've seen people quit in those situations too. It's just too much. It's too overwhelming. But most jiu-jitsu people are like, piece of cake, man, bring it on, baby. So aside from that, I would say just when you do have good resources, you have good tools out there in the wild, you can use them well. If you got a good arm bar, you got a good sweep, man, if someone's even bringing like a solid A game against your A game in a sweep or in a submission situation, like even if someone is aware of it, they got to respect it. So, and that's like when I go out there and I do these classes and my instructors are teaching something, I know what they're capable of, and they'll still push us. They'll still retort back to a stress inoculation. I'll give you an example. We'll be doing something, a task, right? All right, build a shelter, build a fire, have the fire burn a string at 2 feet high, but also at the same time find something that you can boil water in that same time period. Oh, and by the way, build a trap over here. All right, that's a bunch of things. With a team, you got to go do that. While we're doing that, setting up a ridge line, putting our tarp, building the shelter, which is pretty easy. One of the instructors, one of the cadre might come by, cut your string. How are you going to react to that? Right? So just when you think you're getting one up on a black belt, right? And all of a sudden, nope, it takes something away as a lower belt or even black belts, right? So just dealing with that, processing it, and as frustrating as it may be, it kind of shows what your mental fortitude is. So a lot of it is mental. And I would say, and that's in anything in life, that may sound pretty vague, but I always kept resorting back to that, like while I was on the show, and even when I do these other trainings, and when I'm preparing for a training, even a jiu-jitsu competition. So it's kind of relative in the same way.